prices to the moon. The beers them waiting for the crash coming real soon. But the OG consultant watching, he's seen it all before. Over 40 years in the game, he knows the real score. Bull versus bear, a real estate fight. Peter Zalewski tell you who's wrong and who is right. In the Miami Condo investing club with no guess. He cuts through the noise and all of the mess. The Peter Zalewski Show. Big respect, OG in the game. Listen and learn the man's name. And up down. Peter Zalewski Show.
Happy Wednesday, Miami. This is the Peter Zalewski Show. I'm Peter Zalewski, condo consultant, expert witness, founder of the Miami Condo Investing Club. Every Wednesday at 4 o'clock, we go live and we either interview somebody that I think you need to know or we do a deep dive into a subject matter. What are we talking about this week? We're going to take a look at the number of modern versus vintage condos in the zip code of 33160, which is primarily going to be Sunny Isles Beach, but also Aventura. We are working this summer on creating the launch of the condo rating agency. We're going to be going ahead and we're going to be evaluating the financial stability, the feasibility, the viability of condo associations in the Tri-County, South Florida area of Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach County. For this particular episode, we're going to do a deep dive into 33160. We're going to tell you how many of the condo units out there in the marketplace on the barrier island in Northeast Miami-Dade County, as well as a little bit over on the mainland, how many of them are modern, built 29 years ago or less, and how many are vintage, which is 30 years or more. If you're not aware, as a result of the Surfside condo tragedy, which happened 5 years ago next week, 5-year anniversary, if you guys can believe that, nearly 100 people died. A $1 billion settlement was paid out to the families of victims. As a result, state of Florida, with some lobbying from the insurance industry, has put in place a priority to bring transparency to the condo market in the state of Florida, but we're looking at the South Florida marketplace. And what that transparency means is information's got to be shared with unit owners by the board, as well as prospective buyers in terms of what is the state of the building, how is it operating, basically bringing a little bit of transparency and shining a light on all of the shenanigans that go on in condo associations. The other aspect of the transparency is mandatory inspections that are done every 10 years now. It's called a Structural Integrity Reserve Study, or a SIRS, Structural Integrity Reserve Study, or a SIRS. And then at year 30, building's got to undergo a milestone inspection. This is a deep dive into the building. All of it is meant to take a look at life safety issues, take a look at the state of the building. And these studies, they're done by licensed architects, licensed engineers. They go forward, they do their studies, they then assess a lifespan for all the critical elements. The analysis is then turned over to numbers people who put a dollar amount on it. The overall study's put together, it's shipped over to the condo board. Then the condo board has to embrace, adopt, and begin to fund the necessary fixes that are outlined by the experts, which are licensed architects, licensed engineers. Beginning in 2026, what happened? Mandatory funding of these reports and all of the fixes or repairs that have been identified. And as a result of that, the cost of condo living has gone up tremendously, rising maintenance fees, hefty special assessments, as well as pricey insurance premium. This is forcing many condo owners to head for the exits. We've been looking at it. We've been studying it. And one thing we can tell you that's going on in the summer buying season is prices on the asking prices are coming down, and prices for the pending sales or the contracted prices, those two are coming down. So we are in the beginning of a sell-off. Sell-off we predicted quite some time ago. Back in June of 2024, we deemed this the Florida Condo Association financial cliff. What is a cliff? Cliff's a situation where you live in a building, you're doing everything you can to afford it, to maintain it, especially in this era of affordability, and people around you start to go sideways. They choose not to pay their maintenance fees. They choose, or maybe they can't pay their maintenance fees. As a result of that, what starts to happen, people start to sell off. Remember, 4 transactions in a building will reprice the entire building, and that is based on a commercial real estate appraiser. That's what she told me related to this. So we're in one of these moments right now where basically the rubber's meeting the road. All of the fixes because of the Surfside collapse, they're all starting to take place, and it's creating all kinds of havoc in the marketplace. Sellers heading for the exits, buyers sitting on the couch waiting for the prices to come down enough in order to go forward and jump in. But the big question is, where are all these condos located? Which condos are in trouble? Which condos are not in trouble? Can we maybe look at the age? And I would argue age is much more important today than location. We always hear from the real estate industry, location, location, location. Take that mantra, toss it out the window, and start to focus on the age of the building, the age of the building, age of the building. That will dedicate and dictate exactly where a condo is going to be headed. And we are of the thought, as you go forward, you're no longer going to trade condos based on comparables, based on, oh, this one traded here, this one traded there. No, 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 no. We think you're going to have to get into the state of the actual association and then come up with comparables related to that. Much like on Wall Street, you could have a number of different companies that are producing chips, computer chips. Some are better than the others. NVIDIA versus AMD versus Intel. Same type of situation. I think that's where we're going with the condos. So as we dig deep into the condo rating agency and we look at trying to track and rate what is close to 13,000 condo associations in the Tri-County area of Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach County, 760,000 units throughout this entire area. As we dig deep into it, we're finding things that are interesting. And what we think is interesting today is taking a look at what's going on in Sunny Isles Beach as well as Aventura. Looking at that zip code of 33160. We're going to go ahead. We're going to show you some charts. We're going to tell you how it breaks down. We're going to tell you where's the old stuff, where's the new stuff, or in our terminology, vintage, meaning 30 years old or older, the ones that have to do the milestone inspections, as well as modern, those that have not yet done these milestone inspections, so you can get a sense of how it's playing out. One thing I will tell you is buyers at this point, they are opting for vintage condos, 30 years old or older. Now you say, why? Why would somebody want to go into an older building, especially coming up on the 5-year anniversary of Surfside? The answer is pretty simple. Why do people buy used cars? Today they call them a pre-owned car, and you get a certification. So certified pre-owned car. What comes with that certification? Well, somebody's taking a look at it. They tried to fix it all to give you some peace of mind. Therefore, buyers are willing to step forward and buy used cars, which today are called certified pre-owned. Well, that's what's going on in the condo associations right now because of the analysis that's being done by the experts, licensed architects, licensed engineers, because of liability associated with it, whether it be on the civil side or potentially the criminal side related to all of this. What this is playing out to be is buyers are going after vintage condos. A couple of reasons they want vintage condos once they got a signed inspection report and some sort of funding source. Reason they might want these condos is they're in better locations. They were built 30 years ago. As a result, much better locations than many of the new condos coming online today. The other thing is if you're an end user, square footage is much more accommodating in terms of a vintage condo built 30 years ago up until 1996. Effectively, what it has is it has probably about 1,200 square feet on a one-bedroom condo. Today, a one-bedroom condo is going to be 700 to 750 square feet. Look at a two-bedroom condo. Back then, 2,000 square feet. Today, 1,000 square feet. So as a result, buyers are moving in. What is another reason besides the location, because they were built 30 years ago, besides the size? The other thing is ultimately going to be that the vintage condos, the asking price is 40% less than the overall marketplace. So what that means is stepping in day one, you're looking at big discount off of the overall market, and therefore you can get in there and you might actually be able to afford it. What are some of the best markets to be playing at if you are an investor? Broward County. Broward County is dominated by vintage condos. Another good market to play potentially is going to be Miami-Dade County, especially on the vintage side. What we're seeing in Miami-Dade County is the vintage condos are trading and much more active, much more in demand than what you're going to find on the more modern type of stuff. So interesting trends that are kind of playing out there. But we want to talk today about what's going on in that zip code of 33160, which is going to be located up in Sunny Isles Beach. Now, what I should tell you as I prepare to go ahead and share my screen, what I should tell you is that when you want to talk condos, we're doing it 5 days a week, unless there's a holiday. We do weekdays at 4 o'clock. We go live. We talk condos. We're giving you straight talk. We're not giving you a sell-side hyperbole. This is not a Chamber of Commerce presentation. This is going to give you real-time information to help you make a decision and do whatever it is you want to do. Maybe you're a DIY buyer. You're going to do it alone. You want to go out there. Well, you probably need some data. Maybe you're a buyer working the broker and you want some data. Maybe you're a listing agent, can't sell that unit, can't figure out why. You kind of need the data. Maybe you're a regulator. Maybe you're a lender. Maybe you're a gadfly looking and just curious for information. You're going to need the data. And where do you get the data from? You get it from us over at the Miami Condo Investing Club. If you want to be a member of the club, or if you want to get more information, go to miamicondo.club. You're watching this podcast live, and as a result of that, That means you get to see it all for free. Weekdays, 4 o'clock, we go live and we are talking about condos. However, once the podcast is over, we're going to do some edits. We'll do it for sound. We will do it for appearance. Then we will make it available on demand. If you're going to want to watch it on demand, you're going to have to be a member of the club, MiamiCondo.club. What is the club? Club is basically a community or an ecosystem we're building based on condo statistics to help anybody and everybody who's interested in the data. They want real-time information. They don't want the sugarcoating. They don't want the hyperbole. If you are somebody who doesn't believe that the trees grow to the moon, you might want to consider joining the Miami Condo Investing Club. That's probably a completely different approach you're going to hear from the sell side industry. I tend to work on the buy side. That is really my specialty. I love to rip apart what developers are out there sort of pitching and promoting. And how do I rip it apart? I go by the numbers. I like the numbers. I'm not somebody who basically chases shiny objects. Shiny objects do not do it for me. What does it for me is knowing the numbers and getting a deal. Maybe you're shopping for groceries right now and there's an affordability issue. What should you be looking for? Look for the yellow tags. Look for the deals, the 50% off that stores are offering right now. And you don't want to cook it today, throw it in the freezer and use it for the future. The idea is you save money on the way in. Remember, you make your money on the buy, not on the sell. If you buy right, you're probably going to be in the money. If you buy wrong, you're probably going to be complaining like many of the buyers are who came down here in 2021, 2022, 2023. They thought they could work from home. Governor DeSantis of Florida, he said you don't have to wear a mask. There were state mandates all throughout the blue states saying you had to wear a mask. A lot of people came down here. And in Miami Beach, they permitted you to get on a cop car and twerk, twerk, twerk. So many of the people who came in and they bought and they thought this was a forever condo. Well, what they're finding right now is they got called back to the office. And getting called back to the office, they figured, let's go ahead and rent out the unit. You know what they're finding? They are upside down on the rent they're achieving versus what it actually costs to live in a condo. And many people are looking to sell. They're trying to get out. Unfortunately, they're not able to. And unfortunately, they're probably going to be challenged at least until November, when we're talking turkey, we're talking stuffing, and we're talking cranberries. Now, before you say, Peter, what are you talking about? This is June. We haven't even had our first hurricane warning yet, and you're talking about Thanksgiving. That's the reality that many sellers are facing, and this is the opportunity that's being created for buyers. Now, hear me out on this. World Cup started this week in Miami. Miami's hosting 7 matches. It's going to go on through late July or so, mid-July to late July. So many sellers are hoping because supply is building. We got close to 12 months of supply of condos in the Tri-County South Florida marketplace. Buyer's market is going to be 7 months or more. Equilibrium will be 6 months. Less than 6 months is going to be a seller's market. We are in a buyer's market. We're on the verge of entering a deteriorating buyer's market. And as a result of that, buyers have an opportunity. Why do they have this opportunity? Because the cost of condo living is going up and sellers want to head for the exits. Maybe some of them don't want to live through what is going to be a very challenging time doing the work to repair based on what was identified in these mandatory studies, as well as the costs associated with it. So some buyers, they're taking a shot at it as sellers start to head for the exits. And when they do take a shot at it, what do they have to deal with? Well, you're probably going to have to sit there and live through the construction. A general contractor that's restoration work told me every $2 million of restoration work is 1 year of labor. And if a general contractor is falling behind, they are behind schedule. You know what that means? That means if you're laying out at the pool on a Saturday or Sunday, you might have guys swinging hammers. What does it also mean when they're doing the construction? That means you get all of the other joys of restoration work, such as guys showing up who are going to be working on the job site. They get there at 6:37. They're out there smoking a cigarette till the work begins. Then they do the work 10:30 or so. You get a food truck rolling in. Back in the day, they called them a roach coach. Food truck comes rolling in with that horn. Na 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 na. Everybody breaks. They come down, smoke a cigarette, suck down some ropa vieja, drink a colada, and then get back at it. 3 o'clock, they shut it down. The construction's over, and then they come back and they do it all the next day. If you live in one of these buildings where they're doing the work, chances are you're getting a flat tire if you own a car. I haven't had a car since 2013, so not a problem for me. But this is one of the things you will experience. You'll have pigeons everywhere. Pigeons love construction site. This is what is basically coming for a lot of these condos. Now, if you are an end user and you don't want to deal with any of that, chances are you might want to avoid some of these older ones. But if you are looking for value, this is a sign that you're probably going to be in the money, because if you're willing to ride it out and go through the work, chances are you're going to be able to get it at a pretty reasonable price. And that's what we're seeing in the statistics. But the question is, where do I go? Which area should I be looking at? Well, and that's what we're going to show you today as we drill down and we tell you what's going on in the zip code of 33160. So I'm going to be sharing my screen. And while I pull that up, let me go ahead and just remind you, every weekday at 4 o'clock, we go live. And as we go live, you are able to watch all this for free. Otherwise, you got to watch it on demand after the fact. And then you got to be a member of the Miami Condo Investors Club. Mondays, I do Miami Condo Mondays with my partner, Jenny Worktus, over at CVR Realty. Check out her website, cvrrealty.com. Tuesdays, we talk what's going on in the South Florida Condo Cliff Index. This is an index that we have to track real-time what's going on in the marketplace. A lot of people rely on closed sales data. Well, if you want to compare that to Wall Street, closed sales data is the equivalent of unemployment data. It tells you what happened in the past. You want to know where the market's going, you look at the indices, whether it is the Dow Jones, the NASDAQ, the S&P 500, or the Russell, or any other index you want to track. That's what our index is doing. It's taking active listing pending sales. It's telling you how it's moving. So we talk about that on Tuesday to give you real-time, week-over-week analysis of which market's hot. Wednesday is the Peter Zalewski Show, where it's a one-on-one conversation with somebody I think you need to know, or a deep dive into a subject like we're doing today. Thursdays, we talk distress. We're talking foreclosures. We're talking real estate owned, bank owned, REO, short sales. All of that we do on Thursdays. And I wrap up the week with a podcast, a bull versus bear podcast called Buy, Sell, Hold Miami. I do with a guy called Daniel Hernandez over at Compass Real Estate. It's a lot of fun to sort of talk about some of the big issues, and we kind of cut through all the smoke and mirrors and the hyperbole that's out there. We tell you how to avoid the shiny objects and understand what's really going on in the marketplace. So remember, 4 o'clock live, you can watch our podcast. You can always get them at miamicondo.club. If you want to watch it on demand, you will have to be a member of the club, and you can get more information at miamicondo.club. Now, let me go ahead and pull up a chart that's going to show you. I want to make sure I got the right one here. Bear with me. Nope, that's not the right one. Just 1 second, everybody. I had this handy, and then I misplaced it. Here we go. I think this is the one. Yep. All right, here we go. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to share our screen. We're going to start off with the zip code because I want everybody to know where 33160 is. All right, there we go. We got our zip code, and let's kind of drill down. Bear with me. So this is going to be South Florida, Miami-Dade County. Give you guys a little glimpse. This is what we're looking at. This is going to be Miami-Dade County. This is going to be the zip codes. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to be looking up here in the 33160 zip code, just so everybody get a little perspective, and then we're going to get into the number. Let me zoom in for everybody so we're all on the same page. Boom, and a little bit more. Bear with me. There we go. We got 33160. That's what we want. And scroll over a little bit more. Isn't this fun? Here we go. So we can all see here. This is going to be the Dade Broward County line up in and around here. This will be effectively Aventura. This is going to be 33160. That'll be Golden Beach. This is effectively Eastern Shores, if you will, but the way we define Aventura, we're going to go all the way down to 163rd. 163rd is going to be around here or so, and this is all Sunny Isles Beach. This will be Haulover Beach. This is where the nude beaches, for any of you who are kind of into that. Just to the south will be 33154. What do we got going on at 33154? We're going to have Surfside here. We will have Bell Harbor right here. We're going to have Bay Harbor Islands. And then we got Indian Creek, the billionaire bunker, the one we keep talking about, where the Kushners are located, where Tom Brady is. Mark Zuckerberg just bought his $170 million home, which is under construction. Carl Icahn, Julio Iglesias was out there. Don Shula's family still owns a place there. That's going to be Indian Creek. So give you guys perspective. This would be the North Beach area, which is 33141. Then you got Middle Beach, which is 33140. By the way, we just did a study taking a look at Middle Beach in Miami Beach, City, Miami Beach. It is overwhelmed with these vintage condos, which are at least 30 years old or older. And then you got South Beach, and for what it's worth, Fisher Island, the 33109. That's going to be located on its own. And you guys will start to see we got Key Biscayne and we got Virginia Key. But let's go back up to the coast just to give you some context. This is where 33160 is. So let me zoom in a little bit more, give you guys some sense if you are locals and you can appreciate that. There we go. So here's basically how it breaks. This will be Dixie Highway effectively.